Hi, this is Teri Lyddiard at CakePlayGround.com. Today we're doing a tutorial on a Wrestlemania cake. Totally fun. So first we're going to split the layers of the cake so we have more yummy filling between the cake layers. I'm doing that with a serrated knife and a turntable, going around the edge and splitting the cake evenly. And I'm going to lift it off with a cake round and then put it on some cardboard. Next, we're going to fill it up with some yummy frosting and fresh strawberries. This is vanilla buttercream frosting. You'll have to take a look at my Cake Playground website for the recipe on this. It's pretty simple. And then some diced strawberries that I put a little bit of sugar and toss them around to make them kind of juicy. Don't put them too close to the edge because it'll weep out. We're going to be putting fondant on this cake later, and you don't want it weeping out onto the side of your frosting or fondant. And you don't want too much juice on the cake either for the same reason. And so when you put on the layers, make sure that you even them up on the top and the sides as you go. Next, we're going to frost and smooth the outer layer. I usually like to put a big hunk of icing on top of the cake and then work from the top down in little sections as you see here. You don't have to be too careful when you go around the first time. What your goal is when you go the first time around is to just fill in all the nooks and crannies all the way down to the bottom, even cover the cake board. And we'll worry about smoothing it out later, so you don't have to worry about being too pretty at this point. Later, we're going to go around the cake and smooth the top using the flat side of the spatula. And at this point, what you want to look for is evenness and what you want the cake to ultimately look like. So you don't want any bumps, bulges. You want to look at how level it is on the top, on the sides, and on the corner. And next, we're going to be preparing this for rolling fondant. Now, fondant has become very, very popular. It looks like it's going to be so easy, and it is if you use satin ice and the mat. I have fallen in love with satin ice. I think it's easy to use and it tastes great. I also use the mat, which is 2 layers of vinyl that you roll the fondant between. It just makes it so darn easy, and it keeps all the little hairs and lint and anything out of the fondant. So what you're going to do is start kneading the fondant. If you have a big hunk, just do it in little pieces at a time. This just helps to make the fondant really smooth and pliable so you'll get a really good look on your cake. So when this is all kneaded up, what you're going to do is put it between the 2 sheets of vinyl and use a large rolling pin. Now notice when I'm rolling this, I'm rolling from the center out toward me and turning the mat as I go. I just find that very easy. You notice that I even just turn the whole thing the other direction. Sometimes it just makes it easier. So in order to get an even layer of fondant, start from the middle and roll out toward yourself. I find this just easier on my shoulders too versus rolling away from myself. And you really just don't want to roll across the fondant. You're going to have trouble getting it nice and even. So use your mat. At the end here you can see I'm not even rolling with the rolling pin, I'm just smoothing. And so now we're going to take the top sheet off. I'm using my rolling pin, and I have a second mat underneath that I'm going to put the cake on to apply the fondant. Now notice here I didn't get the fondant exactly where I wanted it to be, so I readjusted it. That's the great thing about this mat. So you want to pull that taut and roll it off, and then just use your hand to smooth the fondant to the top of the cake, and then you're going to work from the top down. So you'll notice I'm working from the top down. Take your time. If you're finding that you're getting creases, you can see here that I'm pulling the fondant away from the cake. You notice I was a little short there on that side. But if you take your time and smooth with the side of your hand, as you can see that I'm doing here, and kind of fluff the skirt on the fondant, you will have a much better and easier time, and you won't have any wrinkles. As I get to the bottom, I use the fondant smoother to adhere the fondant to the bottom of the cake. It also kind of cuts it toward the bottom so you have a smooth line to cut with the pizza cutter. I find the pizza cutter is a lot easier and smoother to cut with than a knife. I try to actually cut twice so I don't overcut the fondant and then have some frosting showing. I just find that's easier to do it that way. Now I'm going to cover the cake board. Here I'm just using regular tin foil. You can actually buy cake drums. You can buy fancy foil. Right now I'm just using regular aluminum foil. Just make sure, it's like wrapping a present. So you just want to make sure that you tape down all the edges so you don't get a finger caught underneath and rip it off. So then you take your cake, which is actually on a piece of cardboard too, and put it on your board. Now we're going to make some gum paste post for this wrestling ring. You're going to need gum post and some coloring, wooden skewers, wire cutters, paintbrush, water, and Tylose if you have it. I think the Tylose just makes it easier with the water so it doesn't drip. It just kind of thickens it up. It's a gum thickener. If you don't have it, you can use water. And you can see here that I just took 4 balls of gum paste. I had colored up some gum paste with black and red, and I put them on this skewer. I wanted them to be about 3 inches long. So as you can see, I've measured here with the ruler. We're going to cut those skewers later to the height of the cake. I also used some icing sheets with my new toy. I got a food printer and a Silhouette die cutter, and I'm using the Silhouette Studio here to make some die cuts. And this thing is really easy to use. I bought these from ICING Images, and I bought the printer sheets, the icing sheets from ICING Images. Now I'm going to feed it into this die cutter. I'm actually using an extra sheet that I had, so the extra printing, I'm using the 6th depth on the die cutter. The extra printing there is just waste material. So here I am taking the letters off the sheet that were cut by the die cutter. Those turned out fantastic. Look at the edges on that, just totally smooth and easy. If you're not very good at writing, this is a blessing. I also use the printer and the die cutter for the Wrestlemania tags on the side and the insignia on the top. You can see those look pretty good. I just took those off the website. And then I'm going to just shine this cake up with a little bit of gold pearl dust and a makeup brush. And it just makes the cake shiny and good looking. So now we're going to apply those icing sheets, the Wrestlemania tags. I'm applying with water and mixed with a little bit of Tylose, but if you just have water, that's fine. I attached on all 4 sides, and then I put the insignia on the top as well as the letters. And that's what it looks like from a couple of angles. I think those letters and that insignia look pretty good. And the next thing we're going to do is add the gum paste posts that we made earlier. Those actually need to dry like a day, so make them ahead of time. And you use some wire cutters to cut them to height because you want them to sit flush on the cake. Next, I'm going to add some ropes out of red dental floss, just plain old dental floss. I wrapped them around the indentations on the posts, and then when I got done, rather than tying, I used the water and Tylose mixture to kind of glue the floss to the gum paste posts. And here's the second one around. It actually gave it a pretty cool and realistic look. So thank you for joining me today. This is Teri Lyddiard at CakePlayGround.com. Come back and join us again for more tutorials. I hope you enjoyed this Wrestlemania birthday cake.